Yes, the test cases are finally passing.
Alright, let's just submit, get dinner and drinks.
Yes. So I'm selecting our submission file.
But you know, I kind of like Claudia's test system, you know? You upload the file, it gets tested automatically, it gets signed with his key, you upload it to the university, and you get your grade.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
So, upload. Oh. Lukas,
What?
when was the deadline?
No.
Tunnels are everywhere, most of the time we're unaware, but horses know we're leaking all the time. When looking in the fridge, when coffin does the bidding bridge, you start tunnels for fun and for the prize, cause start tunnels are waivers all the time.
So, welcome to another lecture on cryptography. Today we want to have a look at one of the most famous public key encryption systems, namely the RSA. So, what's actually a public key encryption system? I think it's probably easiest to explain in complicated mathematical terms called a trapdoor one-way function, but which you might know in much easier terms from a random everyday lock, so like a physical lock. You've probably used one before, and you probably know that it's very easy to lock. You just close the thing. Unlocking it, however, is really difficult unless you have access to the key. And the RSA tries to do the same thing, but in an algorithmic way. So this means it consists of three algorithms which represent these three parts here: locking, unlocking, and this key that we need to enable the unlocking. So this first algorithm, the key, is generated by a so-called key generation algorithm. And this actually generates not just one, but two keys, a public one and a private one. So the public one can be distributed publicly by Alice, who generated the keys, but she keeps the private one safely by herself. Now, once she has distributed the public key, everybody else can send her encrypted messages. And to do that, they simply take the public key, use the encryption algorithm, and apply it to process the message. The result is called a ciphertext, and this ciphertext can now be sent to Alice. And Alice, the owner of the private key, can use this key to decrypt the ciphertext and get back the original message. So that's the goal of what we try to achieve. Now the question is, how does RSA get this done?
Wait, we don't want to make this a crypto lecture right now, right?
No, but Martin, how do you expect the students to mount a cache attack on RSA without explaining RSA to them first?
Let's first have a brief look at the key generation algorithm. You already see this looks a bit complicated. So we first need to generate some big prime numbers, then we multiply them together to get the so-called modulus. And finally, we still need the public and the private part of the key. So for the public part, we simply choose a public exponent. It doesn't even need to be random. It can also be, for example, 3. And the private exponent, this is now a bit more difficult to get because it's the secret, so it shouldn't be easy to get from the public key. And to get it, we need a so-called modular inversion algorithm, which I'm not going into details about here, but the important thing is that to compute this inversion, we need the two secret prime numbers that we saw here. What's interesting for us is the encryption and decryption algorithms, and thankfully they are really easy. So let's have a look at the encryption. It's simply a so-called modular exponentiation. So we simply represent the message as a big number, and then we exponentiate this big number with the public exponent. And the result is the ciphertext. It's as easy as that. It's a simple mathematical exponentiation. There is one tiny remark here that makes it a bit more complicated, and that's the modulo n at the end. So this means that these prime numbers and the modulus are also involved in the computation. But only the public version, which is n. For decryption, of course, we now need the secret key. So how does it work? At a first glance, it actually looks extremely similar to encryption. It's the same mathematical operation. It's also just an exponentiation. The big difference is that instead of the public key, we now use the private part of the key as the exponent. So the secret is in the exponent. That's essentially everything you need to know about the encryption algorithm. Any questions? Yes.
How would you implement that actually to perform these computations? A standard integer is too small, right?
That's a really good point, because the numbers we're talking about here are really huge. So the bit size of this modulus here, for example, should be about 4096 bits. That's of course way larger than what your CPU can do. And in particular, these numbers are not only in the basis of this exponentiation, but they are actually in the exponent. That would mean that the intermediate result of this exponentiation would be huge. So really impossible to compute. So we actually need a trick to get that done. So that's a very good question. So this trick is called the square and multiply algorithm. So what does it do? This is what we want to compute. We have the ciphertext. So this is the decryption algorithm. We have the ciphertext, we have exponent d, and we want to compute c to the power of d. And we do this as follows. We rewrite, or we already have, the exponent in a binary representation, so a string of zeros and ones. The length of this string is also about 4000 bits. And now we just walk through this string one by one, and for each bit of the exponent, we need to do either one or two operations. So we have an intermediate result, that's called result here, which is initialized to 1, and we update it once for every bit of the exponent. If it's a 1, we multiply by c, and to go to the next bit, we square our intermediate result. Since the next bit is a 1 again, we multiply again. But now we have a 0. For the 0, we execute only the squaring operation. So let's go through the rest of the exponent. The next bit is again a 0, so we just square our result again. And whenever we do these operations, each intermediate result is again smaller than the modulus n. So we always keep working with reasonably small numbers. They're still big, but at least reasonably small. So let's go through. Here's a 1 again, so we need to square and multiply, square and multiply, square again, and so on. And we simply walk through our exponent, and once we've reached the last bit, we have our correct computation result. Are there any more questions? Okay, great. Then thanks for your attention and see you all next week.
Claudio's binary tree was broken, and now it's patched. But what if Claudio has an additional side channel in there?
We should really take a look at this square and multiply algorithm. If it actually uses two functions for square and multiply.
And so they walk home and then they keep chatting about the square and multiply functions and how they could attack this with a cache attack.
So if the square function is located in one cache line and the multiply function is located in a different cache line, we could use flush and reload to distinguish hits on either of those. And with that, we might be able to extract the secret key.
Wow. If that works, I think we'll really be famous.
I think so.
I think a working attack on RSA is pretty high impact.
Attack on RSA with flush and reload?
Yes!
Ha! Isn't that what the flush and reload paper did? The one from last week?
Oh no, I forgot about that.
Okay.
But then it will work for sure.
What?
Yeah, we missed the deadline, our lecture deadline by a few minutes.
And now?
We're gonna steal Claudio's key, sign our grades ourselves.
Okay. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think I'm repeating myself now. We should not teach illegal stuff to the students.
I also didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We shouldn't teach anything to them that is not legal. But Claudio actually told them, right, in the last episode, that they should go ahead and try to break it, and they will not succeed anyway. And he directly referred there to the PIN entry, the RSA implementation, and the AES implementation there in this system. So I think that part is fine. He gave them permissions explicitly that they can try to break it. They shouldn't hand in the fake certificate at the university server, though.
Yeah, sure. Let's rewrite this.
And now you want to?
Well, Claudio promised us that if we can find bugs in his test system, he'll either give us points or a deadline extension. So I think if we can leak his RSA key and then show that we can sign the certificate with it, he has to give us an extension.
Well, an RSA square and multiply algorithm, that's what you want to attack, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let me show the code.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. So in this loop here, you have here the square function. and the multiply function. And they are executed if the exponent bit is a 1.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's only running the square function. So there's a clear difference there, and we should be able to attack that, for instance, with flush and reload. The thing is, why we can attack this code will be in a shared library. And a shared library will be in shared memory, and shared memory is shared in the cache.
Remember the flush and reload we used from last week? I now use the exact same thing as in Lukas's pin entry tool and target the loop of the RSA encryption we saw before. So I have prepared the code, and now I just need to, for you, Lukas, maybe, to re-upload the file in the submission system so we can trigger the signing process.
Give me a second. You ready?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wow.
We see some cache hits on the RSA loop.
This does not work like that. No.
No kidding, Sherlock.
I think you're doing this completely wrong here.
Aha, thanks. Then you do it.
What, Manuel? I meant the RSA attack.
But did you try?
I tried to just monitor the loop function and measure whether it's a hit or a miss, but it's always a hit. I never see a cache miss here.
Maybe we should take a step back and attack our own RSA key first. Anyway, look at this. I have used my own RSA key. So I have a small RSA test program similar to the one on Claudio's system, and I use my own key with 101001. And
That's not a useful key, right?
no, real RSA keys have much more complicated patterns and I don't know. But here we can see what we want to see, because in the one case I execute square and multiply, so this takes longer than just the square of the 0 case. And I can directly see the key in the timing of the cache hits. So if I look at this, 10, 10, 10, and so on, we see long, slow, long, slow, long, slow, long delay. So that's precisely the key.
Wow.
So we can now try this on Claudio's test system.
Yes. If that works, you get the key.
Lukas,
What's up?
could you try to request our certificate again? I think we got it.
Sure. Give me a second. Did it work?
No, I don't know why. Why don't we see this timing differences no longer?
But it just worked on the other library.
Maybe Claudio added some mitigations, like some constant time stuff or something?
Andy, I've been thinking about those mitigations. So what could it be? Like, how do you make this all the same time? Definitely square and multiply functions are used, but...
I was also thinking about that. And if you take a look again on the code, maybe we can see here the square is always called in both branches. And the multiply adds this timing difference we want to observe to the one branch. Maybe Claudio added some constant time mitigation to make the both branches take the same amount of time during code execution.
So you think, for instance, at the end of the loop, he would add a function that always waits until the same time has passed.
So that each loop iteration takes exactly, let's say, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And we could circumvent this if we monitor not only the loop here, but each of these two functions individually. So we try to monitor the cache hits on square and also multiply.
So you would then print for square and multiply, let's say you print a character, an S and an M, and then you get a sequence. So what would this look like? If you have a key, let's say
1, 0, 1, for instance, we get like SM for the 1 square and multiply.
Yes.
Then we have the 0 where we got S again.
Yes.
And we got the next one then, and we get SM. So in overall we have SM, S, SM.
And from that, you can directly read the key.
Let's try that. Daniel, I think I got it. Look at this. So, I wrote a new RSA test program. This has a secret key in there. I won't tell you right now, but this is similar to Claudio's test system. And now I have a cache line monitor exactly targeting the location where the square function lies in memory. And every time we see a cache hit on that, we print out an S here. In a second window, I have the same thing, but probe to the multiply function. So every time we see a cache hit there, I print an M. So if I now run this RSA test, we can see 3 hits on the square functions and 2 hits on the multiply functions. And these two, I can now order by the timestamp.
Okay.
And now you can tell me the key.
Let me try. So S and M, so square and multiply, so this must have been a 1 bit in the exponent. Then there's only a square, so that means that must have been a 0 bit in the exponent. And then the square and multiply, which is again a 1 bit in the exponent, so your secret key is 5.
Yes, exactly.
Whoa, okay.
It's a short key, but it's a key.
Wait. Can you run this on Claudio's server?
Yes.
So they just run this attack on Claudio's server and they get out the key?
Well, yeah, this works for this attack, but in the real world you probably need a density plot where you record all cache hits between the start and the end of the RSA encryption, and then you still see the peaks even if there is a lot of noise.
Yeah. Law of large numbers.
What?
This works because of the law of large numbers. The noise is statistically independent. And the only things that you have that statistically correlate are the actual computations that you perform. So if you average that, and even if the signal is below the noise floor, that's the only part that is not statistically independent. And if you use a simple statistical measure like averaging, then you will only have those peaks left over.
Yeah, we use that all the time.
Yes.
If you remember NetSpectre, we did that in the cloud.
Yes, with 20 million network requests.
Exactly. And even there you saw on the plots that it averages out and you could distinguish a cache hit from a cache miss.
Over the network.
Over the network.
We should teach them this technique in a simple setup. The rest is just statistics.
Look at this trace. Wow, it's the complete RSA key of Claudio's test system.
Full RSA key?
Oh, I didn't hear you coming in.
So is that a problem or what?
Yeah, Lukas and I wanted to talk to you anyway. So, Lukas! You mentioned that your grading test system uses a pin entry and also RSA to sign the submissions. So we found out that your pin entry was broken, but what if your RSA signing is also a bit broken?
Well, if you're thinking of another attack, I made sure it is not constant time.
About that, your RSA padding for constant time is vulnerable to flush and reload.
Flush and reload?
Yeah, so we can look at the square and multiply functions and see exactly when each one is called, and then we can recover the key from that.
And now?
Yeah, so since we missed the deadline and we reported the vulnerability to you, we thought you might give us a deadline extension.
Yeah, of course, but didn't you read the course rules? I mean, you just have to send me an email and you get a 2-hour extension. There's a grace period in there.
You kidding?
No.
I guess you want to fix this.
Yeah.
I searched online and apparently there's some algorithm called square and always multiply.
Okay.
You can implement that. And it's, well, less susceptible to side channels.
Less susceptible?
There's also other techniques and optimizations like Montgomery ladders, exponent blinding, windowed exponentiation, and these things can make exploitation more difficult or even mitigate some attacks. So,
okay. Can you send me the links?
Of course. Why do I not explain these things to Claudio?
Look at the timing, the episode is almost done.
Ah, yeah. Oh.
Also, the students won't need to know all the countermeasures for RSA.
But then we should add an episode where we discuss countermeasures for Flush+Reload or in general.
Yeah.
Yes, but not for the next episode. I really have a cool plan for the next one.
I think this should be secure for now. One more thing. Your certificate.